Hello, and welcome to Dreaming Olympus. Have you ever wondered what happens when even the strongest brothers can't get along? Long ago, high above the earth and deep beneath the sea, the mightiest gods watched each other with jealous eyes. Tonight, we'll discover the secrets that turned Poseidon, ruler of the sea, against his own brother Zeus, king of the sky. Let's begin at the very start. Long ago, there was a giant war among the gods and giants, the Olympians versus the Titans. The Titans were powerful beings as old as the world itself. But the Olympians, the younger gods, wanted a new beginning. The three brothers, Zeus with his thunderbolts, Poseidon with his trident, and Hades with his invisible helmet, joined together, side by side, to fight the Titans in a battle that lasted many years. When the Olympians finally won, the whole world was theirs to share. But now they faced a strong question: who would rule over which part of this new world? To decide, the brothers agreed to pick by chance. They each drew lots, kind of like pulling straws or picking a stone from a bag. The world was divided into three great parts. Whoever pulled the right stone first would pick first. Zeus picked the sky, the clouds, and the storms. Poseidon picked the deep oceans and rivers. Hades got the underworld, the place where souls rest after they die. All the brothers promised to treat each other as equals. Each one would rule his own kingdom and respect the others. But things were not really equal. Zeus, as the lord of the sky, placed himself on the highest mountain, Mount Olympus. Here, he built the home of the gods. He made the rules and sat on the biggest throne, right in the center of the great golden hall. He enjoyed being the center of attention. Zeus would often call meetings, make important decisions, and tell the other gods what needed to be done. At first, Poseidon was proud of his ocean kingdom. The endless blue sea was full of life. He watched over all the fish, dolphins, whales, and even sea monsters. Whenever humans set sail, they prayed to Poseidon for calm waves and a safe trip. Poseidon loved riding his chariot across the water, pulled by giant sea horses. He built shining cities under the sea, made pearls and corals, and made the waters roar or grow still with a swing of his trident. But as time went on, something started to bother Poseidon. He saw how Zeus acted with their brother gods and sisters. Zeus placed himself above everyone else, always giving orders. Sometimes, Zeus would even use his lightning to scare the other gods into listening. Whenever Poseidon wanted things to be more fair or tried to give his opinion, Zeus was quick to remind everyone, "I am the king. The sky is above all." The other gods could see it too. Hera, Zeus's wife, grew tired of always being pushed aside. Athena, wise and brave, also wanted her thoughts to be heard. Some gods began to feel treated like servants, not family. Sometimes, if another god did not agree with Zeus, he would become angry or send storms as punishment. Poseidon's anger grew slowly, like a wave far out at sea. He remembered fighting side by side with Zeus in the Great War. He remembered their promise that the world would be shared between them as brothers. Now, Zeus acted as if only his voice mattered. Sometimes, he made fun of the sea and its creatures. He talked about how the sky brings rain, how his storms rule over land and water. Poseidon thought, why should the sea be less than the sky? Why should Zeus be above the rest of us? Every time Zeus gave an order or told the other gods what to do, Poseidon felt less like a ruler and more like a helper. Poseidon was not the only one upset. Hera was also angry. She remembered how Zeus did not listen to her or the others. Athena spoke up now and then, but Zeus would often interrupt her. Even some of the younger gods and goddesses started talking among themselves. Is this fair? They wondered, should Zeus always get his way? Bit by bit, more gods noticed that things on Olympus did not feel right. Poseidon was a proud god, but he did not like to show his anger. He kept his feelings deep inside, under the waves where no one else could see. But inside his heart, a storm was building. He began thinking about what could be done. Should he always stay silent while Zeus ruled over everyone? Should the sea and its king always be second place to the sky? The gods could not keep their feelings hidden forever. Sometimes they argued in the great hall, sometimes their voices carried through the clouds as loud as thunder or as sharp as crashing waves. Still, Zeus did not change. He liked to be in control. He liked to remind everyone that he was the king of gods. Poseidon started to notice that other gods looked to him. They noticed his strength, his wisdom, and his love of fair play. They saw that he was brave during the war, and that he cared about others' opinions. Hera and Athena talked quietly with Poseidon. Together, they wondered what could be done to change things. Inside, Poseidon asked himself, if Zeus never changes, what can we do? How long must I watch while my brother makes everyone feel so small? The more Poseidon thought, the more he wanted something to happen. The sea would not stay calm for long. The story of Poseidon's betrayal starts here with his wish for fairness, respect, and his growing belief that maybe, just maybe, Zeus was not the best king for the gods. The storm in Poseidon's heart was getting bigger every day. He started to think about what Zeus was doing, not just to him, but to all the gods on Olympus. Poseidon watched Zeus sit on his golden throne at the very top of the mountain. Zeus liked to feel important and loved making decisions for everyone. His voice was so loud, it was like thunder crashing in the sky. Every time Zeus spoke, his words rolled over the mountain and echoed down to the earth. Sometimes Zeus didn't just talk, he shouted. And if anyone disagreed with him, Zeus could end the argument with a little flash of lightning just to remind everyone who was boss. The other gods started to notice how Zeus acted. Sometimes they shared sad or angry looks when Zeus wasn't watching. Hera, Zeus's wife, was the first to speak to Poseidon in private. He never listens, she said quietly, her voice almost drowned by the rain outside. We're supposed to be the family of gods, but Zeus acts like we don't matter at all. Athena, wise and clever, agreed with her mother. The gods care for the world together. But now, it's like only Zeus's ideas are important. Everyone else is just there to nod and listen. Poseidon nodded, feeling a bit better knowing he wasn't the only one upset. Soon, other gods and goddesses joined the secret talks. They met in quiet corners of Olympus, far from Zeus's throne room, where the shadows were deep and the walls seemed to listen. Poseidon knew the other gods trusted him. Sometimes he would speak for them when Zeus was being unfair. It made Poseidon feel strong, like he still mattered, but it also made him feel even more upset. Why did he have to fight so hard just to be heard? Why should Zeus always get his way? One night, the rain hammered on the roof of Poseidon's great halls under the sea. He looked out at his kingdom, watching the waves toss and turn above the coral and the fish that zipped through the water. Poseidon wondered if the sea could roar. Why should he stay quiet? It was then that Poseidon made up his mind. He would talk to Hera and Athena and the others about what needed to be done. Maybe it was time for Zeus to be reminded that he wasn't the only power in Olympus. The next day, when Zeus called all the gods together for a meeting, Poseidon sat quietly, listening. Zeus spoke for a long time about what he wanted and what everyone else should do. When it was Poseidon's turn to speak, he tried to share his ideas, but Zeus interrupted before Poseidon could finish. Zeus didn't even notice he had done it. He just kept talking like it was the most normal thing in the world. After the meeting, Poseidon found Hera and Athena. Their faces were serious and worried. He's never going to change, is he? Athena asked. Poseidon shook his head. No, not unless we make him. Hera whispered, if only someone could remind him that we are all powerful, too. The three of them started to make a plan. They would work together with some of the other gods. First, they would gather their closest friends, those who also wanted things to be more fair. Then, when Zeus was least expecting it, they would take away his power. Not forever, just long enough to show him that he couldn't rule alone. Poseidon's heart pounded. He had never done anything like this before. Standing up to Zeus was dangerous. Zeus was strong and proud. But Poseidon could not turn away now. Too many gods were counting on him. He remembered the promise the brothers made after the great war, and how Zeus had broken it by acting like he was the one true king. Poseidon, Hera, and Athena met secretly with their friends. The group grew larger as more gods joined them. They spoke in whispers and used secret signals, making sure not to let Zeus find out. Even a few of the minor gods and goddesses agreed to help, tired of being treated like they were unimportant. Their plan was simple, but risky. The next time Zeus fell asleep deep in his great golden bed, they would sneak into his room with heavy, magical chains. Together, they would trap him so he couldn't move. Then, when he woke and found that he was not in charge, they would tell him what they really thought. Poseidon worried about what might happen. What if Zeus grew angry enough to punish them all? What if the plan failed? But Hera reminded him, "We are doing this because we care about Olympus. We want everyone to be heard. Sometimes, you have to stand up to what's not fair even if it's scary." The day finally arrived. Zeus, after a long day of throwing thunderbolts and making rules, grew tired and fell fast asleep. The gods crept quietly into his room, thunder and rain masking their footsteps. Poseidon's heart beat louder than the waves. Hera and Athena led the others, each one holding onto the magical chains. Very slowly, very carefully, they slipped the heavy chains around Zeus's arms and legs. Zeus kept sleeping, snoring so loudly it almost shook the floor. The gods pulled the chains tight. Poseidon whispered, "Ready," and they all nodded. At last, Zeus woke up and found he was stuck. He struggled, but the magical chains held fast. Thunder rolled above them as Zeus shouted and raged, but the gods stayed close and calm, just like they had planned. Poseidon stood up tall and told Zeus, "You are our brother, but we cannot let one god rule all the rest. It's time for you to listen to all of us." The other gods nodded and spoke softly, not out of fear, but with hope that Zeus would understand. For a moment, it was very quiet on Olympus. Even the rain paused against the golden windows. Poseidon, Hera, Athena, and their friends waited to see what would happen next. This was the moment when the rebellion against Zeus truly started, a moment that would change the gods, and maybe the world, forever. Zeus was not happy at all to find himself trapped. For a moment, he didn't say anything, just glared at the gods who had come together against him. The sky outside darkened, and thunder rumbled close. But the magical chains were strong. Zeus pulled and fought, but the chains held tight. He looked at the faces of his family and finally understood. They were serious, and they meant what they said. First, Hera spoke. Her voice was calm, but there was power in it. "Zeus, you are our king and our brother, but you have not listened to us. You have forgotten what it is like to rule together. As a family, Olympus is not just yours, it belongs to all of us." Athena stepped forward next. She told Zeus, "There is wisdom in many voices, not just one. When you rule alone and never listen, you forget why we fought for Olympus in the first place." Poseidon spoke, too. He didn't shout. He didn't boast. He just spoke from his heart. "We fought together, side by side, to win this world. We promised to share it. But lately you have made everyone feel small and unimportant. That is not how a good leader acts." Zeus listened. At first, all he could feel was anger and surprise. He thought he was doing what was best, protecting Olympus and keeping order. But hearing the voices of his family, even though he was stuck and powerless, made him start to think. He remembered how alone he had felt when he and his brothers were fighting the Titans, and how strong they'd all been when they trusted one another. Finally, Zeus let his shoulders drop. He looked around at Hera, Poseidon, Athena, and the others. Instead of shouting or getting even more angry, he did something no one expected. He said, "I see now that I have acted wrong. When I forget that we are all equals. I hurt you and I hurt Olympus, too. I am sorry for not listening, for acting like your voices didn't matter." The chains didn't fall away right then, but something inside the room grew lighter and softer, almost like the first rays of sun after heavy rain. The gods saw something change in Zeus's eyes. Poseidon took a deep breath, and so did the others. Maybe things could get better after all. But there were still things to work out. The gods and goddesses talked for a long time, maybe longer than they ever had together before. They agreed that Zeus would still be king, but he would listen to the council and give everyone a chance to share their ideas. No more shouting, no more only one voice. Problems would be solved together, not by just Zeus alone. Poseidon felt the storm inside him finally start to fade, like a tide going out to sea. He knew that even though Zeus was stronger than any of them alone, together they were much better and much wiser. Now, everyone, Poseidon, Hera, Athena, and even some of the smallest gods would have a voice that mattered. As for Zeus, he thanked his family for reminding him of the promise they had made after the war against the Titans. He told Poseidon, "You are my brother, and you are as important as I am. I forgot that for a time, but I promise to remember it from now on." After the talk, the magical chains disappeared. Zeus stood and hugged each god who helped him see his mistakes. Poseidon accepted the hug. He knew that even though brothers and sisters could get into big arguments, what really mattered was listening, telling the truth, and forgiving one another. Olympus grew peaceful again. There were still arguments, sometimes gods will always be gods, but now each voice got a chance to be heard. When decisions needed to be made, they were made together. Zeus became a kinder, wiser king, and Poseidon ruled the seas with even more pride and happiness. The world above, below, on land, and in water felt this change. Storms became gentler, the sky brighter, the sea calmer. The people prayed to the gods and hoped that peace would last. But what about Poseidon and Zeus? Did they stay close after all of this? The answer is yes, but like with any family, there were still problems from time to time. Sometimes they disagreed, sometimes they argued. But now they knew how important it was to listen, to forgive, and to remember that even the strongest, loudest person needs to hear other voices. Sometimes, on stormy nights, Poseidon would visit Zeus on Mount Olympus. They would watch the rain together and talk about the old days, remembering the war, their mistakes, and how much better things became when they worked together. And sometimes, when the sea was perfectly still and the sky was clear, it meant that the brothers were at peace. Every family has its fights and its troubles. What matters most is learning, forgiving, and growing from those times. Even gods can make mistakes.